I know that we hear all the time. Take the microphones, take them off Amazon, get the people off the mics. We sick of talking about them. And in many ways, I agree, but a very specific subset. And the power is really in our hands. It's really in your hands to stop feeding the negativity. There are plenty of, I say this to people any and every time I hear it, I'm going to stand up and say it. Every person talking about relationships today is not doing it in a nasty way. Is not doing it in a way to tear apart families. Is not doing it in a way to keep people further apart from each other. There are tons of people. It is not just us. I watch plenty of things, okay? And so I see it on a regular basis. But what I also interestingly see is that they aren't viewed as much. They aren't platformed as much. They don't get as much notoriety as the things that seemingly are funny or entertaining, but those laughs come at a cost. Those laughs come at a cost. We all love to chuckle and play around about certain things, but in reality, we just don't have a lot of room to play like that, because the ha-haing is separating our families. The ha-haing is making us lose money. The ha-haing is putting us in graves. It's keeping us behind because we want to just ha-ha and laugh at, oh, well, if my wife don't do this, I can just go and cheat on her. It's not funny. When you really, really think about it, it's not funny. It's scary.
Hey guys, welcome back to Real Love Scenario. Woo! Shout out to all our real lovers out there. Thank you for coming back for another episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things to join the Real Lover gang. Make sure you leave a review.
Yes.
Leave a review.
Leave a review.
Please. And also follow us on Apple and Spotify on the podcast side of things too, to hear the audio version. So when you're working out, driving in your car, you can hear us that way too. We are excited to be back to talk about a relationship topic that's really dear to our hearts and really the real reason, kind of, I guess you could say, of why we're doing everything that we're doing. So I'll let Rhonda get into what we're talking about today.
Yes, this is a special one. As you said, we are talking about Black love and representation and why it means so much to us, not just individually, but why it really means so much to our culture. And as Dre said, I think about, when we got together and we really started talking about like doing a podcast, and there was always this push for platforming positivity. And I think Black love is grand. I think it's positive. Like I said, I've never seen a bad thing come out of good Black love, ever, never, ever. And so it matters to us so deeply because there's just such rich history, right, with Black love. And so much of it is a beautiful thing. So much of it has anchored and shaped our families and our communities. But we are in a state today where when you look at the numbers, right, you look at the statistics, it's scary to continue to see a decline in many ways with Black love and Black family and really what that's doing to us. So, Dre and I sometimes, I feel like we might even lose sleep over it at how much we really want to fix it all, right? Yeah. We want to just wave this magic wand and like save everybody and like, look, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I don't think we'll ever stop trying. So we hope that this episode really just leans into why it matters so much and why it is a really beautiful thing when you're doing it the right way, when you're doing it with the right person, and how we really need to be more committed to it so we get our communities back and super strong, and how we continue to build upon that generational wealth that is necessary. But to me, the complete nexus of that is Black love. Like that's the core of how we get there. Yeah. Black love for one another, but truly, definitely Black love through romantic partnership.
Yeah, it's such an important thing.
Yeah.
For so many reasons. One of the main reasons that we wanted to focus on this is because culturally we can relate. I think it's important. Relationships are such an intimate thing. Mm-hmm. And intimate conversations to have, and we're advising people a lot of time, not only on this show but also in person through DM, and having an understanding of the culture and a connection to the culture. I think best helps you to, advise or to give guidance, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons we experience this ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
living it ourselves. So I
Yeah.
think we're more geared to giving advice to this specific group and
Yes.
giving guidance and examples to this specific group versus
Yeah.
any other group.
Yeah.
But also it's like, if you truly study the history
Mm-hmm.
of Black people, especially Black people in America, and you truly understand it for what it was, I don't know if it's just because I'm Black,
Yeah.
but there's something in your heart and your soul that makes you want to pour into that community because it's been for so many years, centuries, like
Mm-hmm.
put at a disadvantage,
Yes.
both systemically,
Mm-hmm.
and in just in regular social interactions.
Absolutely.
So it means so much to me to try to give back to this community and basically giving back to taking the information that I've learned
Mm-hmm.
as a person and as a husband and trying to be a positive example to show like what it could really look like, because there has been a a effort to attack our families and
Yes.
dismantle our
Yep.
families, and dismantle marriages. And there's this false perception that a lot of people believe, not only people who are not Black, but also Black people believe about even ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm trying to dismantle and take apart and show us in a more positive light. So I'm excited that we're talking about this, and
Yes.
because it means a lot to me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It makes me think about, we had some guest episodes, and if you're new here, go back and watch them. They were great. We had friends, we had people that we look up to, experts, psychologists. I mean, we've had a wealth of guests on the show. But one of my favorites, when I think about Black Love, was Cody Elaine Oliver, who is the co-founder of the Black Love brand, that really started as a docu-series on the OWN network. And I just remember feeling just happy to see it.
Yeah.
There is no feeling like seeing yourself, right? Like representation. And I just remember being so connected to it as a person who wants marriage for themselves and has always wanted it. I enjoy watching people in the comfort of their own homes, talk about their marriages, the good, the bad, all the ups and downs. The gamut, it ran the full gamut, like from fertility issues to almost getting divorced, loss of parents, loss of children. It covers so much stuff. And one of the wonderful things about having Cody on the show was really her sharing why they decided to do it. And it just fully aligns with like why we do this. We recognize that there is a shortage of people really showing how good of a thing Black love actually is. Like you said, some people, even in our own culture, have become a part of the problem, have become some of the biggest advocates for the separation of the Black family, for the things that just keep us so distant. And I really want us to stop perpetuating that. There's a difference between a person who chooses for their own personal reasons, maybe even their own personal experiences, to decide that the Black love that they want to have is just self-love or it's familial love. If you say, I don't want romantic love for myself, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I want y'all, because I say us when I'm talking about Black people, but I'm saying y'all, those that do this particular thing. I want you to stop villainizing and demonizing marriage and partnership for those who in fact do want it. I do think we are better together. And as I said, I think the centerpiece of growth and prosperity for us is love, and definitely in family, because how do you continue generations if you don't have that? How do you continue to grow legacies if you don't have two people coming together and deciding we're going to have Black love and we're going to create Black love through our children, we're going to create Black love through our communities? I want us to be really, really careful and mindful. Yes, we're young people. We get it. Y'all have heard me say the streets is rough. We can all agree to that. But the thing is, they don't have to be. We are in the streets, right? When we talk about that, we're not talking about the asphalt. We're not talking about the signs. We're talking about the humans.
Yeah.
Which means our behaviors is what we're saying is poop and pee in the dating streets. We need to be more cognizant on what we're doing and what we're saying and how we are dismantling our own power, because love is power, is extremely powerful. I look at so many couples, again, whether it's people I know personally or people that I don't know personally, but I believe from my view that their relationships are beautiful. And I find that it is powerful. Love can heal, love can build, love can grow. I've literally watched my own friend go from a young man who always knew really that he was going to be something great. Don't get me wrong. Dre always knew he had it, and he had it young, became a manager at a very young age. But I watched your life dramatically change for the better when you decided to become a husband. And that's before you got married. When you decided I'm on the pursuit of husbandry. I watched your life change. I watched your life change as you just dated Brie. And I certainly have seen your life change tremendously now that you've truly committed to marriage and partnership. And I think when you see it being done in such this way, it's like, how can you hate on that? Like, how can you say like that's a bad thing? We get so locked in on like the stuff that isn't going well. It's not that we can't acknowledge it happened, but it's like just to give a metaphor. Or an example, like you talked about the Black experience in America. Most of us understand that a lot of that started through the slave trade. When you think about that, it's like, that's not the totality of Black people, right? That is not really where our story began. It's just where our story began in this country. But when you think about the African diaspora, all of Blackness, it is a rich, rich, rich story. And we need to tell the whole story, and we need to focus on the beauty that is in the story and not just those 400 years that we were slaves. So it's the same thing when you're talking about love, Black love. It's expansive. It's beautiful. It is not just that relationship that didn't work out. It is not just that cheating athlete. It is not just those stories. It is so much bigger and so much more beautiful than that. And I think when you really look at the big picture, more of it is good than it is bad.
Yeah, and I think to your point is that there is like the whole diaspora of the Black community and who we are. But I think when you look at the slave trade and when this term of Blackness was even created, that you, because your skin was darker, that you were less intelligent, that you were not important, that you were less than an actual citizen. That's where it really starts in trying to have this journey of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to combat, because there was really an effort to truly dismantle everything that we were trying to build as people, right? In this country. And for us to try to be on the better side of that is that we have to have those positive examples. We have to have those conversations, because you think, again, like you said, that you're fighting against the athlete that cheated, or this person that did this, or this Black man that did that, or this Black woman that did that. It's like what you're really fighting against is this conditioning that was done to you by taking your ancestors from their place in their homeland and their culture, stripping it of them, and then placing them in this foreign land and basically stripping all their identity and making them believe things and making them think that in order to do certain things or to get to certain places, you had to operate a certain way. And some of that came from being taught, but also some of that came from survival of being in a place of where you had less. So you had to do certain things in order to survive. It's unfortunate, but a lot of the Black experience in America and Black culture is closely aligned with poverty culture, right? Like we talk about a lot of things. We talk about serve sandwiches. We talk about Kool-Aid, all those different things. But what they don't tell you is like, oh, we had Kool-Aid because juice was too expensive, right? We made serve sandwiches because we couldn't buy the actual dessert. It's like, it's part of our culture, but it's also poverty as well. And it's aligned with that. And it's mainly because at every opportunity we had to try to succeed and go up,
push down,
we were pushed back down. So it's like everything that we're doing in love, and the way to rebuild that is by building back up our families and our communities. Like communities are built off the backs of families.
Yes, they are.
And the healthier that we can have our families in our community, the better we can build up our community, which then helps us as a whole and continues to move us forward.
Yeah.
Although there might be factors out there and people out there who are trying to continue to push us down. So I'm really excited about this topic. If there's anything that I would tell people, if you're like, I don't get it, watch this documentary on Netflix called Stamp. It's also a book called Stamp from the Beginning, but it's also on Netflix called Stamp from the Beginning. And it takes you through the whole creation of Blackness, like how it was created, like literally created to, and it wasn't even here in America. It was literally created overseas in Europe, in that area. And the main reason was because it was a lot easier to keep track of Black slaves than if the slaves were also white. So if they ran away, they could blend in, they could figure it out. But it was easier if you had Black slaves, African slaves, right? Because if they were to break free, leave out, like they would easier be spotted. And there's much more that goes into it. But it was really a campaign that was launched against people of color. And it just became this huge whole thing that we're still suffering from today.
That we're still in today. That's why I say the history is so like rich and deep, and we're gonna get into the framework here in a second. The other thing that I wanted to say, there has to be, when you really think about it, like I say this all the time, if I had the choice to come back differently, I really wouldn't. I would be Black every time, because I really love being Black, even with the mistreatment that I've experienced, or even understanding that sometimes I've had to, and in some ways still today, I have to work twice as hard to get the same things, or I have to consider the fact that if I ever wanted to sell my house, I would have to potentially bring in a white friend and all these different, even with all of that being said, I would still choose to be Black because of the resilience, because of the togetherness that we actually really do have. Just sometimes we get lost, like we get frustrated, it does get tiring to have to always be so resilient and so strong. And I think that's kind of the place that we're in with relationships right now, or the state of relationships right now, where there's just general fatigue in the fighting against each other, right? Like I think that people are just like, you know what? I'm not fighting anymore. I'm just done. I'm done. I just don't want it anymore. And I hear that more and more and more. And it scares me. It even scares me when the feeling comes up in myself. I'm going to be honest. Like I do feel that sometimes. I never lean into it because I know it's a temporary feeling, only rooted in the fatigue of how difficult it has seemed to become. But we are absolutely better together. And that's one of the biggest things I love about being Black and experiencing Black love, whether it was through my family growing up, or through romantic relationships. I've only ever dated Black men, and I have absolutely been loved the right way by some Black men, and some of the Black men in my life, romantically and otherwise. I lost my uncle recently, and Black funerals, they go one to 2 days, you just never know. And we went to my cousin's house, it's her dad, and it was just, I just remember in a moment, I was just sitting in the living room, and like all of my cousins are like standing around and dancing and telling stories. And I almost felt like I was like not in the room. I felt like a fly on the wall. And I got like just choked up, just like watching this. And there was no romantic experience in the space, but it just felt good to like be with my people in such a time, but just like to watch us be one with one another. I just, it's no shade. We love everybody, right? We love our listeners that are not of Black backgrounds, but there is something so swaggy and so cool and so fire about us, and that's why people worked so hard to try to dismantle us. And why they still do work so hard to try to tear it apart. And I really just want us to be extremely conscious about pushing back against that and not falling into the same patterns, not falling into the same patterns. So let's jump into the framework. When we think about the framework, we think about 4 words: representation, which we talked a lot about already, reflection, repair, and reimagination. So like I said, we talked a lot about representation. But I want to get into reflection, right?
I
Because
do want to say something about
no, go. Yeah, please.
representation.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that with anywhere, like exposure to
Yeah.
anything. Like you might have a whole bunch of people who never went to college, but then they go on a college tour and it then becomes something that they aspire to do or
Yeah.
aspire to have because they see it as being a positive experience and because they never were exposed to it. And I think representation is so important. And I think that's a lot of the issue that we have today. It's not just people's own experiences, but what they see
Mm-hmm.
and perceive things to be based off of what they see online or on social media, then they draw their conclusions off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do they feel like they're not winning in their own lives, they look out into the world and they feel like they don't see anybody winning in that area either.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a complete issue just in general on a digital media and social media standpoint, is that we live our lives in this highlight reel type of society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to go away from that because that's our lives. Like currently, like let's say as you go into adulthood, right? Even as a kid, what people want to know, did you, make honor roll? Did you do this? Did you do that? What's most important is what you have achieved. So a lot of times what you want to project are only the things that you achieve. Then when you go into the workforce, you're putting together a resume to say like, hey, look at all the great things I've done. Look at all the great things that I can do. And then now on social media, it's literally a curated feed of like all of the highlights of my life, where I travel to, what I've done, what I've experienced. And people say they want real, but they don't really want the real. They want to see the highlights. They don't want the negativity.
Yeah.
So your life is almost structured in today's society to only show the positive. And the issue is that when people actually show you the real, it feels disgusting to you.
Yeah.
You don't even want to see it. You judge it. You don't even take it as being something that's possible because in your mind, because your life is structured in a way that it's all about the highlights, you fall into the trap of thinking life is that way, or that when it comes to love specifically, that if you find the right love, it is that way. So the thing that makes it so hard and frustrates me so much is that you have so many great representations out there of love. However, when they tell you about the real aspects of their relationship that got them to the point of where they are, you seem disgusted by it. You don't want them to talk about it. You start to judge their relationship. They're not as good as we thought they were. Whether that's the Wills and Jada of the world, if you have issue with how they share about their relationship, or even the Obamas, Michelle, I ain't like that man. If you've been married or been in a relationship with somebody, you know how that feels and you can relate. But them having issue for that, or saying like, I didn't want to attend that thing. My husband and I are getting divorced. I just didn't want to do that thing. He had me in the White House. I ain't really want, like, these are real parts of a relationship, but they can't even be real about the true experiences of their life and of their marriage to show you, hey, if you want to succeed in this, it's not just all flowers and all, all great things. There are hard parts that come with this, but we can't. It's the thing that, and my cousin had brought this up, and it's so true, that the thing that not necessarily irks my nerves about us sometimes, but something we have to get better at and improve in, is being so critical of ourselves, of people in our own community. Like my cousin gave a perfect example. You go to Ruth Chris, you go to Maestro's, you go to any of those places, and it's not a great experience. You're not on social media. Oh my gosh, you can't. Like, Ruth Chris is so disrespectful, blah, 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 blah. But if it's a black establishment, man, y'all kill that place, right? Just open, trying to work out the kinks, but you killing it as just doing reviews, like all online. And it's like, we all have the experience of having to try to figure things out. Gaining wisdom and getting to a good place comes with a process, but we can't discount the process when somebody's trying to share with you the process of what they went through. So it's like, we have to appreciate representation, but we have to let the representation come in all aspects of it.
Yes. That's exactly what I was referring to earlier about like the Black story as a whole. So many people want to start it as slavery. Like, that's not where it begins. There's a rich history, a deep history that is still being made to this day. So to put us into this one little box of like those 400 years is crazy. To take that one bad experience at a restaurant and tank it because there was a bad night, it was a bad moment. It's not that you can't say anything, but again, you think about, if this were me, like, this is my brother, this is my sister. I don't know them from a can of paint, but we share culture. It's a moment to maybe go in the back and say, can I chat with the manager, the owner, who, if somebody's here, and like, let's listen. Hey, I know you've been open for a couple weeks. Here's what happened. Here's how I think, just my 2 cents. Or maybe it's do you need help? Maybe you have a resource that could help them. You never know how that could go. And that's what community is. That's taking care of one another, representation by way of helping each other. You going and reaching that hand out, you have no idea what that moment is doing for that particular owner, restaurant manager, or whomever. They now see what's possible in what you just did. That, damn, everybody isn't here to hurt me. There are people that are out here that are actually like my brothers and sisters that are trying to like help me. Even that is representation to them. So you make extremely, extremely valid points.
And there's a level of protection that comes with that. Like, it's like, you have to, I always say one of the hardest things in life is what is versus what should be, right? And a lot of people want to go with what should be, but you have to live sometimes in what is. And we are different than some of our counterparts that are not Black, right? And there's a certain responsibility that we have. Like, for those who aren't Black, right? Sometimes if something happens, that's just John doing the thing, right? But if a Black person does it, even though it's still Michael doing the thing, that's how Black people do the thing. Right? There's a certain responsibility and protection that you have. That's why even when I see people always openly, again, I'm talking in a situation like with the reviews and all that stuff, like just overwhelmingly, like just publicly, like bashing. You can be right in your opinion and feeling, but you also have to understand what you're perpetuating, right? And the thing is that what you're saying is not wrong, but it's the illusion that this is only a Black problem and that no other culture or people deal with this. So if you keep perpetuating that, that's what people are going to believe, especially if it comes from Black voices, right? Because it's going to give an extra layer of validation to it that furthers the narrative of what people believe us to be. And it's not just white people or other people who aren't Black that believe it. It'd be other Black people that believe the things that we're saying. So it's like, we have to be careful because there are so many great representations of Black love and Black people doing some amazing things. Like, when I look at my circle of people, all the dudes pretty much in my life that I'm close with are married. They are about their, like, actually about their wives and about their women. And that's like my community. So it's like, it's out here and it lives and for a lot of systems and in this society, there is no advantage to promoting it, right? There's no advantage to promoting it. The negative narrative feeds a lot of different things. For instance, where we're living in right now, federalizing law enforcement to go into cities, like, it doesn't fit the narrative to say like we're doing good. Things are great. There are a lot of couples and marriages out here and families that are thriving in many different ways and many different areas in the country and all those different things. So it's important from a representation standpoint, just to bring it back home, that we are not perpetuating the false representation of what things are, because it doesn't truly show who we actually are and how we're actually operating.
That's so true, man. So true. Moving on to reflection and how we internalize what's possible. You really just kind of touched into that. But when I think about that, you hear the saying, "I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams." A lot of times my reflections go there when I think about what I perpetuate, how I show up. I want to make first my immediate people proud of me. I want to make my mom proud of me, my grandmother proud of me, and they tell me that they're proud of me, so I know that they are. I know I'm doing a good job. But I do take it seriously. I do reflect upon what people had to do for me to be able to get to do the things that I do today. I'll never forget when Barack Obama was elected as the president in his very first time. I remember sitting on the edge of my mom's bed. I very specifically went to her house because this was a huge moment for Black people. Okay. And I remember him walking out on that stage when it was announced that, he had won the election, and walking out, and Michelle and Sasha and Malia. And I cried so much, and it's like hardcore crying, not just like little tears. I'm like, like boo-hooing. It wasn't completely about him or them. It was about the fact that people who had come before me, my grandma Annie, who had long passed away, you could not have convinced her that this would have ever happened. There was no way in her world that a Black man would be at the highest level in this particular country. She just couldn't fathom it. And I cried on the fact that, like, I get to experience these things. I do get to experience and see the advancement of Blackness in this world. And I take seriously that I contribute to that my decisions and how I choose to live my life all roll up into that. Yes, I'm an individual. I can certainly move to the beat of my own drum, but it's bigger than that. And I want to be a part of representing Black romantic love in a powerful and positive way. I know that we hear all the time, take the microphones, take them off Amazon, get the people off the mics. We sick of talking about them. And in many ways, I agree, but a very specific subset. And the power is really in our hands. It's really in your hands to stop feeding the negativity. There are plenty of, I say this to people any and every time I hear it, I'm going to stand up and say it. Every person talking about relationships today is not doing it in a nasty way. Is not doing it in a way to tear apart families. Is not doing it in a way to keep people further apart from each other. There are tons of people. It is not just us. I watch plenty of things, okay? And so I see it on a regular basis. But what I also interestingly see is that they aren't viewed as much. They aren't platformed as much. They don't get as much notoriety as the things that seemingly are funny or entertaining, but those laughs come at a cost. Those laughs come at a cost. We all love to chuckle and play around about certain things, but in reality, we just don't have a lot of room to play like that, because the ha-haing is separating our families. The ha-haing is making us lose money. The ha-haing is putting us in graves. It's keeping us behind because we want to just ha-ha and laugh at, oh, well, if my wife don't do this, I can just go and cheat on her. It's not funny. When you really, really think about it, it's not funny. It's scary. I want to raise my nieces, nephews, or potentially a child one day in a world where they know what's really possible for them, and not that, oh, you ain't gonna be able to get nobody, you ain't gonna be able to have no relationship. I really do spend time reflecting on who went before me, what they did to get me to where I am, and what I can do to do the same for the generations that are coming behind me. I care about that a lot, and I want so many more of us to really care about that. Like, I appreciate the men that, even if they don't want to date you, they still want to take care of you when you're in their space. They still want to make sure you're good. Like, I grew up in a neighborhood like that, where the men in the neighborhood looked out for my mom because they knew that there was not a man in the house all the time. So it's like, y'all need anything? Well, I'm going to go to the store for you. That's community. That's Black love. It's not always just going down to the altar together. It is all of that. And I really want us to just lock in more on reflecting that, damn, we have such beautiful things about us if we just pay attention to it. We just pay attention to that and stop paying attention to the stuff that keeps us farther apart.
Yeah, and I think it's our responsibility to do that.
It is.
Because if not us, who will?
No one. Absolutely no one.
Right?
That is the actual answer.
It's like, if we don't do it, who else? And why would anybody else do it, right? There is no connection. So why would they even reflect to take any responsibility on as to what has happened in the past to then
Yeah.
change what could possibly happen in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
I encourage everybody to do your research. Like I said, a great documentary to start with is Stamp
Mm-hmm.
on Netflix. From the beginning, it really will take you from like where blackness was created and how it was created and why it was created, all the way up to
Yeah, I
kind of
gotta
where
watch
we
this.
are today.
Mm-hmm.
And after seeing something like that, you would have to take a sense of responsibility in and of yourself. And it's not, everybody is not called to, do what we do or to be on a huge platform, but it's just in your everyday life. If you're raising a child, if you have
Yeah.
a godchild, if you're an uncle or aunt, or you're a coach, or you're, anything
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
your local church, if you're around people, just trying to exude that positivity
Mm-hmm.
and being an example and taking a responsibility for us and us as people. Even if it's just like, I would normally reshare something toxic because it's funny, but you know what, I'm not going to reshare that because
Yeah.
it's perpetuating this thing that's not true. And it's like, even if I say again, even if that moment is something that's real, it's like it gives the illusion that it's only us,
That's it. That's
and we
it.
don't want to do that. So that reflection has to happen for us because we are the only ones that will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, you have to understand, if like left untouched, like we would fall in the background, and with it, like there would not be a care in the world. We have to be the ones on the front lines fighting
Mm-hmm.
for ourselves, because that's just how it works. And it's not just even saying people who are non-black are just evil for not doing that, but it's like, if something happened in your family, you would take your responsibility because it's your
It's your
family.
family.
Somebody else wouldn't have that same connection to your family. So
Yes.
although they might have some empathy towards what you're dealing with, the responsibility and accountability they won't take because it's not their family.
That's it. That's
Like,
it.
you have the connection. And when you really reflect on the sacrifices, like when you really study and research and you learn what people went through
Mm.
and everything they had to overcome and what
Mm-mm.
things were purposely put in front of them to hinder them, just because of the color of their skin, then you feel a sense of responsibility to just at the least behave in a way
Mm.
that will honor the sacrifices that they made.
That's it. That's it. I got teary on that one because you see enough of it, right? Like, I went to African American Museum, which I've been to tons of times, but I went recently, and every time it tears me up to really see how much we've had to go through, how people were literally making decisions around like dying, like men dying for their families to live. You know what I mean? Like, or just ultimately choosing to die because they just felt like there was no alternative. They would rather die now than to be killed over through torture, through just slavery for years and years and years. So that stuff, that reflection, like you said, it helps just refocus when you sometimes think, this is my life, I'm doing whatever I want to do. It's like, yeah, except you're not, except somebody's always paying attention. And that just leads into the next R, which is repair. We talked a lot about things that we just need to do, so no need to belabor it, but there is a lot of repair that's needed mentally to uncondition the things that we think, that scarcity, that poverty mindset of like, there aren't enough black men, there aren't enough black women, there aren't enough. It just isn't. It's not. Again, I'm not suggesting that we should act like the realities of things aren't the realities of them, but we can acknowledge and move on. We can see that a thing is a thing, and then we can move on. And on top of moving on, what's the solution? Everybody loves to talk about the problem. We can hobnob and drink and have a whole 2 hours just talking about the problem. Who's going to introduce the solutions? Like you said, nobody's going to get on the front line for us if not us. We have to do it for ourselves, and we have to push against perpetuating and not making good decisions. And I want to take it a step further. We have to push against this need to prop up ourselves and not think about the person next to us, like our potential partners, around how much more expansive and beautiful our lives would be if we would find partnership, even at the most basic level. Like having two incomes is better than having one.
Yeah.
I don't care what the incomes are. It was 20 and 20. You either have 20, or you have 40. If it's 1 million and 2 million, it's 3 million. Even if you're just looking at it on just a basic level, but even down to just like help. Like how many things don't you have to do in your house because you have a partner in your house?
Yeah, I remember my cousin saying, like, when you single, you leave something on that coffee table, that thing
on that coffee table,
on
ain't
that
it?
coffee table to you choose to pick it up.
Correct. Correct. I be looking at the dogs like they can't even do it. Damn. You know what I mean? Like it's so real. So we have to do so much repair, but it starts in very simple everyday things. Like you said, turning away from the foolishness that you see online, or just not sharing it. If it's coming across your timeline, fine. But 9 times out of 10, it's coming across it because you engage with it. Even that's a daily choice that you could say, you know what, okay, I see this, but how do I want it to go away? You can dismiss it, you can hide it, but you can ultimately just not like it. It'll go away, right? So it's just so much repair that we have to do. But we have to take it very seriously because it's a very serious matter.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, again, we have to take our responsibility for it, and that comes with researching. If you want to try to repair something without the manual or instructions on how to repair it. You have to know, like, first, what happened? How did we get here? And that's the thing is, like, people try to say, like, slavery's over now, systematically, there's no systematic racism and all those things, but people don't understand what conditioning actually does. Like stripping somebody of their culture, having them believe certain things, purposely putting them in certain environments and stunting their growth, what that does to a community of people. So not saying that we use that as the excuse, but use that as a way to understand first, to have empathy for the people that you're dealing with, especially the people within your own community, to understand it's like, why, these ghettos exist and why these people thought this way and why these people feel this way. This was engineered, right? By people purposely to make people feel this way and to think this way and to stay in this space and never to grow. Like, why are there schools in this area underfunded? Like, these things are purposely happening. So there's empathy that I want you to have and want us to have for our own community, not just saying that all these things are okay, whether it's people killing each other, it's not okay, but approach it from a different perspective in the sense of like, okay, I understand that some of this is a result of the virus that was uploaded, right? And not the actual true operational way of, this group of people. So when it comes to the repair part, it's important that you do the research to understand, like, okay, I get this. This is probably how we need to go about fixing this problem. And like you said, it's just every day showing up in a way that doesn't perpetuate what's going on, but allows us to see everything in the positive light that it can be in.
Yeah. Also known as reimagining, which is that forethought. Just reimagine, there's beauty in dreaming. There's beauty in looking forward and like really wanting to create a new narrative or get back to the original narrative. Again, going and doing that research to when we were kings and queens, when we have, just like today, we have opulence and excellence. That didn't just start when Jay-Z started saying it. Like that's always been a part of who we are. So it's a beautiful thing to reimagine that, like, that is a world that I want to live in. I love seeing what I want, what I look like, who I am, even at the most basic level. I remember, I'll tell a super quick story. When I started working for the company I work for now, I knew that the president was a young Black woman. So that was a part of the reason why I chose the company. But I will never forget, I went to an event within the first couple months of me working there. And she was there and she was leading the discussion. And she had faux locks in her hair. And it didn't even dawn on me. I mean, I'm Black. I've seen Black women with braids my whole life. It's not a new thing, but it in that moment clicked that I had never seen a woman at that level in corporate America with braids or a braided style. Never, ever, ever. And I just remember feeling so happy about that. It was, I'd already connected on the fact that she was Black, that she was young, and that at such a high level. But her hair being that way was just like, damn, like it's possible, right? Like I don't have to shapeshift and conform to what society says is culturally appropriate, or is appropriate for what for the culture that I'm in, which is corporate America. And I felt so moved by that I had to talk about it. Like I posted online about it, and it got back to her that I had shared about it, and she sent me like the most beautiful email. Like, I thank you so much for like noticing that, and you've made a wonderful decision to choose a company that wants you to be who you are, right? We certainly want you to follow the rules and the policies of the company, but we don't have rules and policies around you can't have braids, you're a Black person. And we've since forged a wonderful relationship that is always really rooted in like, I see you, I see you, you see me, and we know that we are representing something. So I've never felt more empowered than I did from that day forward to show up in my fullness at my job. Like, even today, like those who know where I work specifically today, some people would think like, oh, you really have to be buttoned up. And yes, I'm a professional ultimately, but I'm a Black woman first. And so I wear my coils, I wear my braids. If I want to have color, I wear my color. I don't feel that I need to shape. And, so I'm very thankful that I live in a world today where even day over day, it's being reimagined. Again, my mom would not have done that 20 years ago in corporate America. My grandmother most certainly would not have done that in just her day to day, let alone corporate America. She wouldn't even done that in her neighborhood because that was just not a thing. You straightened your hair. You damaged your hair to get it straight. You put that perm in, you do whatever you had to do to align with others. And I want us to continue to reimagine that we're the goal. We're the standard. We're the standard for us, not anybody else, not any other group. We are perfectly and wonderfully made in all of our richness and all of our kinky coils and all of our different shades. Just even when I think about the shades of Black people, it's like, it don't really get no better than that. Like, no, again, no shade to anybody else, but you line 10 of us up. It's beautiful, from the shapes of our bodies to our eyes to our lips to our hair. It's just, we are stunning, and we can be stunning in all ways, not just our aesthetics. We can be stunning in the way that we show up and the love that we give to one another.
Yeah, and that's so important that you say that.
Yeah.
And I remember long ago I used to think like, oh, maybe could be offensive to people by, doting and saying that Black people are, this and that. But it's like when you then do the research and do the history, it's not for anybody else but ourselves.
That's it.
It's to understand that there was this narrative that was pushed that we aren't those things. So it's important to state those things. And I think, like you said, reimagining things are so important because it shows growth. Sometimes we can be stuck in the old way of doing things. And we lose people because we stay in the old way of doing things.
Yeah.
I was even discussing this with my parents about like church, for instance, like growing up in the Black church. And I was like, I remember growing up, there was this thing called the Sunday school conference, right? And growing up, that conference was 3 days. Like kids would stay overnight in the churches and go to the conference.
Yeah.
By the time I got older, it became half day.
Wow.
And a lot of it came due to a drop of attendance. And then even now I run across a lot of people who have their relationship with God still, right? But their relationship with church is a lot different, right? And that's why I say I think it's important to reimagine, like, where are we now?
Yes.
And I talked to my parents about it. I'm like, yeah, like back in the day, I think there was a different level and relationship with God that you guys had based off of where everybody was. Even with the church was the place where you got information. The church is the place where politicians would go to that was your source of information. But it was also, I remember the songs, work it out, how you gonna pay your bills, work it out, telephone disconnected,
work it out.
Right. It's like with the life that I live now, right?
Yeah.
And the people around me, nobody around me is trying to figure out how they're going to pay their light bill.
Mm.
Nobody around me is trying to figure out how they're going to pay their telephone bill or their car note. Like, so the way and how we even, do things spiritually has to be reimagined for where we are now. It's like, how do we, like, you and God and your light bill due and you ain't got no fit, like, it's not going to resonate with a group, mainly because the group before us did an amazing job of helping us stand on their shoulders to get to the point that we are now. But we have to reimagine, all right, now what is this next iteration of this now that we have moved to a different point? And I use a church example, but it's also in relationships too. We talk about this where we talk about like, oh, how your aunt be like, stay with that man, that's a good man, and make sure you do. It's like, we understand that in that time, which is still now, but the strength in family at that moment, especially when one income could carry a whole family, right? And there were more benefits to having more kids, 6, 7, for whatever reason it might. So mom was at home taking care of things, dad was out working, like sticking through even some of the things that may not have made sense during that time was great from a unity perspective to hold that family together and to provide for everybody. But now we reimagine, all right, what do relationships look like today? Like, what do people look like today? What do black women and black men, their abilities, the things, we're standing on the shoulders of all those that came behind us, but we have to figure out, like, now in this day and age, what does this look like? Because I feel like sometimes we can stunt our growth because we're trying to use old methods of doing things when it's like that doesn't apply to where we are now
today. And we have to think about our shoulders because somebody's going to be standing on ours. And what message are we sending? What are we teaching them about love? Like, I've said this for years, and I honestly, this is just a reminder. This episode, God is so powerful, is a reminder that I really want to figure out how to make dating and love a part of curriculum. I strongly believe that those things should be a part of education, just like financing, money management. That should be a part of like grades 1 through 12. And maybe you get it obviously in high school, but these things should be a part of like learned skill sets. Algebra's cool, but most of us have not used this since the grade we took it in. Okay. Like, we haven't. We are being set up for failure by not knowing this. So again, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to teach our kids this today. We have to be more invested in, like, what does this actually look like? I watched a lady talk about how her and her husband, they resolve almost all of their conflicts the day that they happen. And oftentimes for their older kids, they have some of those conversations with their kids, right? Like they make them a witness to it. One, it helps them be mindful of what they're saying to one another. So it helps them be kinder to each other because they have their kids watching. But it's also for the kids to actually learn that this is how you resolve conflict in most relationships, but most certainly one day when you all become husbands, because all their kids are girls, that this is how you resolve that. They're like, we don't shield them from those things. We need them to understand, because they're going to get out here in the real world. And just like me and him, we didn't know what the hell to do when we had to learn the hard way. I don't want my kids to learn the hard way. I want to set them up for success. So all of us can be doing that, whether we have kids out of our own families or not. I want my nephew to understand what it means to be a good man to a woman, but also just a good man in life, how you take care of the women around you, not just your girl, not just your wife, not just your mom, but that lady that's in the store that seems to be struggling with her bags, the woman that's getting off the bus and she's older. I want him to be paying attention to all of that. And I also, more than anything, want him to be mindful about what he says about women, what he thinks about women. I don't want him getting caught up in the things that people do and say on social media, because a lot of that stuff will teach them to be disrespectful, to be completely unaware of how this makes him look culturally, not just individually, but culturally.
Yeah, I remember hearing Pastor Mike Kelsey. He was like, a good husband is a good man with a wife.
That's it. I heard that too.
Yeah, yes. A generous husband is a generous man with a wife. A kind husband is a kind man with a wife. So it's like, the man that he
Yes.
is important, and then the way he shows up in life could be the way that he shows up for you.
That's it. That's it. And jumping into green flags and red flags. And these are rooted in just your relationship with the stratosphere of relationship podcasts,
Yeah.
relationship content. Um Obviously, I would say we're probably one of the best green flags out there. So you'll safe bet if you just lock in here for
Yeah.
sure. And really, really, all of our shows are there to really guide you and get you going in the right direction. But it's just media that really showcases accountability, happiness, and joy that are full circle. That also show like the tenderness of Black love. I think sometimes, again, we're so resilient and we always want to show how like strong we are, but we're also soft and gentle. And nothing like warms me like seeing just a man or a woman, but definitely a man like melt for his partner, like, or dote on his partner, or give her so much credit for like what she's doing for him. I watched Kev on stage talk about how his wife, when he lost his brother, allowed him to crumble in her arms. Those were his exact words. And he cried. Like, that is tenderness, and it's beautiful. And we have to see our men that way. We have to see our women that way. We have to see like just the softness that is who we are. We are not just fight the power. We that too, but we are also gentle and soft. And that leans into that narrative that we aren't just what media will try to portray us to be: thugs, single, cheaters, all these just negative stereotypes that get associated to Black people. So anything that really highlights that showcases that, if you want positivity, if you want to change what you're seeing, that's the type of stuff that you need to lock into. Those are green flags.
Yeah, there's a book I told you I was reading called Ego is the Enemy, written by Ryan Holiday. And one of the things that he says in the book is the ability to evaluate one's ability is the greatest skill in life. And really it's just about reflecting on your own self and your own abilities and being truthful with who you are and where you are in your life.
Yeah.
And if you can get to that point, then you can start receiving things. Because until you realize that, hey, I don't know everything, and there are some things that I need to do better, and there's some areas that I need to improve in, until you get to that point, you are not going to be able to retain anything or grow in anything. You got to get to a point to where you're like, I'm looking at myself, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm a bad person by any means, but there's a lot of improvement that I can have in my life.
Yes.
So in order for me to get there, or there are a lot of things that I don't know and don't truly understand. I hear people talking about marriage. I've never seen any marriage or healthy marriage or anything like that at all. Maybe I'll start finding some people and asking them, like, why'd you do this? What do you feel good about it? Like, you start to become more curious, like, and start to try to fill in the blanks where you may lack in. So I would say start with understanding, one, that you don't know everything, and it's okay not to know everything.
Yeah.
A coach once told me, the man who don't know what he don't know is a dangerous man. It's okay not to know.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's issue when you think you know something that you don't know.
That's it.
So you want to be out there seeking knowledge and ask people and talk to people. And that's where we go back to representation and why that's so important. And I'll say this too. It's like, I want to give a shout out to my family as well from a representation standpoint, because I grew up in, a two-parent, well, my mom and biological dad were divorced ever since I could remember. But even in that, I saw a great example of how co-parenting can work in a very positive way, with no issues, problems, at least that I saw, that you expose to the child, and healthy enough for them to be around each other, for us to have family events together and all those things. And then when my stepdad came into the picture, I got to see what a man operated like as a husband in a home. Like, I got to see my stepdad lose his job and still lead in his home, right? And then my aunt and uncle were married. My grandmother was married. My grandfather was married. So I saw all these positive examples, although they look different, right? Positive examples of love. So I knew it was possible, right? I knew that this was something that I wanted to aspire to have and to be. And I think, and look back in my life, is like, had I not had that representation, I wonder how I would have operated, in life. Even going back and making mistakes and being able to sit down and talk to my parents about it, and they give me wisdom and advice. It's like, those things are so important. And the reason what Rhonda and I are talking about today, the reason why it's so important is because what they did as parents, they don't have a platform. They're not out here, on a podcast. But what they did as parents was birthed in me. And now I'm on this stage of speaking at, all around the country and doing things, doing this podcast, to talk about the benefits of marriage and relationships. So it's like, whether you're here where we sit or whether you're just parenting a child or coaching a child or something, like it, all the impact matters, because we're just planting seeds. Like, it's no way that you could look at the conditioning and issues that we went through that are like hundreds of years of happening and thinking that there's just one way and one time to solve the problem. It is like continual, consistent effort, day in and day out, over generations and generations and generations and generations and generations, in order for us to get to where we ultimately want to get.
That's it. That's it. And I want to shout out my friends whose marriages continue to inspire me. Dre and Bree, obviously, but Crystal and Greg, Drea and Rome, and Toy and Spence, who are relatively newlyweds, just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. Thank you. Thank you for... And some who found, like Toy and Spence, found love later, both over 40, and met each other and got married. And so thank you all for all that you do to represent Black love in a positive way, but in a very real way. Every one of your relationships has seen things. And I don't mean that foolishness. I mean just actual challenges that you navigated together and that you continue to navigate together. Whether you know it or not, I'm watching and I'm like, okay, I like that thing. I'm to put that, plan to use that with my husband later. But yeah, it matters. And to all of you, if you are that in your lives today, continue to do that. If you are not, find opportunities to do that. And more than anything, turn away from the things that just are not helpful to us. Don't perpetuate it, but most certainly don't even feed it. Don't spend your money with it. Don't platform it. Learn that, like, we are in a bit of a state of emergency, and we have to do as much as we can to save our families, so that our legacy just doesn't die, because it's a rich, rich, beautiful one. Black love is, like I said, the cornerstone of all that we are, and we just simply can't afford to lose that. So let's all do our part. Let's all do our part. We appreciate you for tuning in, as always. Please, as Dre said at the top of the episode, if you enjoyed this, share it with someone. And more than anything, share your thoughts with someone. Drop us some comments. And of course, leave us a review. We love to hear from you. Follow me on social media. I'm at Ronnie Kids.
As Dre Smith.
And at Relationship Restored.
Peace.
See ya.